welcome to another Tuesday evening here with us on our YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. So we're back in action. Still a little bit under the weather, but we'll manage to do a lesson and we'll carry on from where we left off last week. Unless the Lord builds a house, it's built in vain, as they say. Okay, and we're going to carry on from item number 6. If you have any questions, shoot them through straight off the bat. Let's just give a short reminder. This YouTube channel is a YouTube channel that's supporting B'nai Baruch, which is teaching the wisdom of Kabbalah. If you're interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah and you'd like to learn it, you want to take a course, you can definitely watch all of the videos we have here, absolutely free. But if you want to practice with people who are like-minded from around the world, you can always go to Kabbalah.info and register with the CABU Academy there. And the guys are all lovely. They'll be more than happy to help you out. And you can work with people who are like-minded. And probably in your country, there's a few even so. So let's carry on. Rabash article number 8. This is excerpt number 6. Let's just make this text a little bigger. All right. And as usual, if you have any questions, shoot them through. We'll try to clarify what we find in the text together. This is a youth who is a poor child with nothing of his own. In other words, all the work which is only to bestow upon the Creator and not for his own sake, this work is against the body, where he wants to work specifically for his own sake and not for the sake of the Creator. At that time, a person sees that after each ascent, he immediately has a descent. And from this, he gets the matter of nights and days. This continues until a person decides that he's powerless to do anything, since he sees that everything he does in order to advance, he sees the opposite, that each time he has more evil. At that time, he decides and says, unless the Lord builds a house, they who built it labored in vain. For this reason, when a person is rewarded with the Creator giving him the desire to bestow, meaning that he has been rewarded with being able to do all his actions for the sake of the Creator, he sees that he is a child. That is, he has no power, no more power than that of a child, meaning he has nothing of his own. In other words, he has achieved nothing by himself, but rather the Creator gave him everything. Rightio. So let's read that again a little slowly and we'll see what we can get from this text. This is a youth who is a poor child with nothing of his own. In other words, all the work which is only to bestow upon the Creator and not for his own sake, this work is against the body, where he wants to work specifically for his own sake and not for the sake of the Creator. At that time, a person sees that after each ascent, he immediately has a descent, and from this, he gets the matter of nights and days. So this is a youth who's a poor child with nothing of his own, means that there's actually no strength in any of us to do an act of bestowal. This is why we're poor, right? We can't bestow. We can't give. That's what a poor person is in spirituality. They cannot bestow. They cannot give. We're always receiving, right? So we're in this poor state. So all the work, which is only to bestow upon the Creator, that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we want to get to, and not for his own sake. This work is against the body. So immediately when we start to move towards giving and bestowing and loving others and not expecting anything back in return, then this is against our nature. So it's against our will to receive. So immediately the body is kind of uprising against it. So where he wants to work specifically for his own sake and not for the sake of the Creator, right? Because everyone, all of us are egoists and self-centered. When we want to do something, our initial plan always is self-benefit. So no matter what we do, okay, I'm always thinking, there's something to gain from that. Otherwise, we wouldn't move, right? This is our human nature, unfortunately. by studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, we actually get to reveal that. Because if you ask a person out there on the street and say, you're an egoist, you're only thinking about yourself, you're really selfish, the guy will probably say, what are you talking about? You know, I'm a nice guy. Okay, you know, the nice guy phenomena, right? So that's how it is. And that's just a phenomena because he has not yet revealed any evil in him. Why? Because he's not working on loving others. The only time you can reveal your egoism is if you are working towards loving others, caring for others, and not expecting anything in return. The minute you start working like that, your body starts to say, wait a second, if there's no benefit in this, why are we doing it? Okay, that's called the body is rebelling. So at that time, a person sees that after each ascent, he immediately has a descent. And from this, he gets the matter of nights and days. So whenever he wants to do something, he's motivated, he wants to do something, he wants to, you know, help the friends, let's say in the group, okay, because we're studying in a study group, and he wants to help others, support others and everything, immediately he's facing a descent because the body's saying, listen, why would we do anything if it's got no benefit? So the ascents and the descents go hand in hand. This continues until a person decides that he's powerless to do anything, since he sees that everything he does in order to advance, he sees the opposite, that each time he has more evil. So as we advance more and more in the group, what we see more and more is our desire to receive revealing itself. Sometimes we call it the growing coarseness, right? As I'm getting more and more coarse. But it's not that I'm getting more coarse, it's I'm revealing more of it. Okay. So that was, for example, a trait I didn't realize I had before. And now I'm working towards bestowal. All of a sudden, something against that is coming out in me. So I'm beginning to see more and more bad traits in me because I'm trying to work for the good. If I'm not trying to work for the good, they're never going to come out. This continues until a person decides that he's powerless to do anything. So I have to work until I reach some level where I am absolutely knackered. All right, I'm absolutely knackered, shattered, and I don't want to do anything. Okay, and because I see that I can't do anything, so we're working for years and years and years, and we understand that all this hammering away hasn't really given me any benefit, and I haven't seen any real change in the work. And the only thing I've been seeing since I started studying is more and more of my evil. So all of a sudden, this thing becomes a bit stressing. It becomes a little stressful for a person, right? So it's a stressing situation. Since he sees that everything he does in order to advance, he sees the opposite, that each time he has more evil. Because in spirituality, the common sense says, well, if I want to get better, right, as I progress and study, I should be getting better, right? That's common sense. However, in spirituality, what is embetterment, right? The first phase of embetterment is to see the truth. So as we study more and more, the wisdom of Kabbalah shows us the truth. And the truth is that we're all self-centered egoists. So the more I reveal that, and I begin to see that I can't do anything about it. I'm like, this is my nature. I can't change it. So I'm kind of helpless towards the situation. So I've got to find myself in this dilemma. On the one hand, I'm beginning to see I'm more evil. On the other hand, I'm beginning to see I can't do anything about it. It's not in my hand to change my nature because I didn't create myself. And then the third thing is I've got to have some outside impact, some effect, something that really, you know, touches me from the outside, pushes me, helps me out from the outside so that I can make this revolution. So at that time, he decides and says, unless the Lord builds a house, they who built it labored in vain. So unless the Creator helps me to build a new vessel, a vessel of bestowal, there's no chance that I'm ever going to be able to change my egoistic nature, which is reception for myself. For this reason, when a person is rewarded with the Creator giving him the desire to bestow, meaning that he has been rewarded with being able to do all his actions for the sake of the Creator, he sees that he is a child. So we're kind of getting this gift from above, and that gift is a change in our nature from reception to bestowal. And once we receive that, we see a second truth. We see the second truth, and that's that the Creator is taking care of the business. And we're just like kids in the arms of his or her mom. Okay, so the Creator is taking care of everything. He's actually growing us. Okay, he's building us. So we understand. What do we understand? That is, he has no more power than that of a child, meaning he has nothing of his own. In other words, he has achieved nothing by himself, but rather the Creator gave him everything. So if the Creator is giving us everything, we might ask a question and say, well, what's the point of my work, right? And before you guys ask that question, let me just answer it, okay? The reason that we're working is to see the truth, okay? The Creator wants us to understand the state we're in. He doesn't want us to change our situation because we can't change it anyway, but he wants us to understand what situation we're in. And then he wants us to make the right decision, which is not to be in this bad state. So as we progress in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we're learning more and more. And that learning more and more is actually about ourselves, about our nature, about how our egoism is governing us and ruling us all the time. So we're completely controlled by this desire to receive pleasure for ourselves. So we're just constantly running after one pleasure and after another and another and another. So it's this never-ending rat race where we constantly want to fulfill ourselves. Okay, and that's the state that the Creator wants us to figure out. You know, he wants us to see that this is our situation. And once we understand that this is our situation, we can then make a discernment, because on the one hand, we've got the dot in the heart who's questioning the meaning of life. On the other hand, we've got this nature that we have to deal with, which is always just, you know, I don't know how to say this, always stabbing us in the back, okay? Because it's never given us peace and quiet, right? It's always making us chase stuff. So here we are running after all kinds of things, and this is revealed to us, and then we understand that this is all empty. You know, there's nothing really to chase. So the effort, the study, the work that we all put into it, despite the fact we can't change our nature and the Creator can, is not in vain. It's only in vain when it comes to making this switch, this change in our nature. But actually the work really advances us in seeing the truth in a I don't know, how should we say it, in a kind of a fast way, you know, rather than learning from the agonies of life, right? Problems and agonies of life. What I can actually do by studying the wisdom of Kabbalah is kind of speed up this process of discovering my life, discovering my reality, how I function, and then I can decide whether I want to function in this way or not. Okay. So discovering the truth on the one hand is evil. It's bad. It makes us feel bad. But on the other hand, it's quite rewarding, and because then I can decide what I actually want to become. Do I want to stay like this, or do I want to change for the better with the inclination that I have in me, which is called the dot in the heart, right? That first initial inclination to discover the meaning of life. All right. Well, that was a mouthful. Any questions? We're all good. All right. There's item number 7. Well, after this item number 7, this is the last item on this. What do we got on the agenda? You don't know? Naughty, naughty. All right. Okay, let's read number 7 anyway. And if there are any questions, we'll check it out. Okay. Excerpt number 7. This is from Rabash article number 23. Since the man sees the measures of the work that he has in matters of mind and heart, and how he has not progressed in the work of bestowal, he also sees how his body is weak, that he does not have great powers to be able to overcome his nature. For this reason, he sees that if the Creator does not help him, he is lost. As it is written in the Psalms, if the Lord does not build the house, they who build it labor in it in vain. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, there we go. So let's read that again. Since man sees the measures of the work that he has in matters of mind and heart, and how he has not progressed in the work of bestowal, he also sees how his body is weak, that he does not have great powers to be able to overcome his nature. For this reason, he sees that if the Creator does not help him, he is lost. As it is written, if the Lord does not build the house, they who build it labor in it in vain. All righty. So let's explain what this is all about. Since man sees the measures of the work that he has in the matters of mind and heart, now as we progress in spirituality, as you know, sometimes we go with this thing called not blind, but faith above reason, right? When we go faith above reason, faith above reason is going above our logic. And sometimes people think that this is straightforward belief, but it's not really. We want to use mind and heart because our mind is very important, because we can use it to evaluate what we feel. So the heart is what we feel and the mind is what we're going to use to evaluate what I feel. Why is that important? Because then I can make a discernment between where I am and the state I'm in, and according to the study where I'd like to get to. All right. So by studying the articles here and then comparing it to the sensations I'm going through, I can evaluate and discern where I am according to the article we're studying. So if, for example, like we read here, right? If I'm studying for, let's say, a number of years, and I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm going through a lot of ups and downs. I don't feel like I'm going through ascents and descents. It's a problem, isn't it? Right? So then the article says, but I need to go through ups and downs. These are nights and days. So I should have these ups and down moments. So I need to say to myself, well, okay, so what do I need to do in my current state so I can actually do something that will give me these ups and downs so I can evaluate the states of my nature, right? Because how else am I going to discover myself? So the mind and heart are very important and we're using it a lot. In fact, we use our mind quite a lot in this business, but we don't use our mind to philosophize about something. We're using our mind always to evaluate the emotional situation we're going through so that we can plan our next step ahead. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, it should make sense. I can't just read an article and philosophize. I must connect the feeling that the article is talking about and then evaluate my situation so I can plan ahead. Or I might actually be going through what the article is talking about. That's also good, okay, because I can only have two situations. I'm either going to find myself in the article. When I say find myself, I'm going to find I'm going to feel like I'm living what the article is talking about. Oh my God, I'm going through a sense and this sense. Yeah, I'm discovering my egoism. All right, so that kind of stuff, that's great. So I'm living the article, lovely. And then from here onwards, I can actually go deeper into that state and actually start to work on my next step to build, to renew actually what I'm doing so I can elevate to the next level. Okay, and what is the next level? The next level is discovering that I'm even more egoistic than the current state I'm in. Okay. And that's how we get to this point of understanding that no one except the Creator can help me out here. Now, otherwise, you'll never understand what's going on. Okay, do you know what I mean? So the effort, the constant work is very important because the efforts that I put behind allows me to believe and understand that there's nothing I can do to change my nature. Zilch. Okay. And the second thing is, I may not be feeling anything that the article is talking about. And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I need to go through these states. So what am I going to do in order to go through these states? Okay. So in both situations, it's worthwhile studying the articles. So if I'm moving forward more and more, if I'm studying, I'm evaluating my situation, and I begin to understand that I'm never actually, I have not moved one fraction of an inch closer to bestowal. In fact, I'm seeing myself going further and further away from love and bestowal. I'm going further and further into discovering that I'm complete evil. Evil Knievel, okay, as they say. That's how it is. So if the Lord does not build the house, if the Creator does not build my heart in order to bestow, then there's no way this is going to happen. Okay? It is all in vain. So the effort, the work, actually allows us to come to a heartfelt prayer. Okay. Let's see. Any questions? No? Nothing? All right, so let's go to another topic then, shall we? Crown the king over us. Okay, there's one question. All right, we'll get to that. In the meantime, we'll get to crown the king over us, selected excerpt from the sources. I will share the link in the chat here. Okay, and you guys can share it with everyone else. Okay, Ashley, you got that? Yes, okay, good girl. Rightio then. Let's close that. One question. Let's find that question. Patricia's asking, is this house the same thing as a sukkah? Well, we could say that, obviously, yeah. Why? Because the sukkah is also, it's called a masah, right? It gives me the ability to resist receiving pleasure directly. So that's great. I have now the power to overcome my desire to receive. Okay. At the end of the day, there's only the desire to receive. Okay. If you want to keep things really, really simple, always go back to the fundamentals. The Creator created a desire to receive with the intention to receive for itself. The desire to receive is our heart, right? That's the desires of a person is known as his heart or her heart. So what we want to do is convert that from using it for my self-benefit to using it for the benefit of others. And I can only do that if I can overcome my desire. And that means not to receive the pleasure, the light directly. So that is exactly the situation. Okay, so the Creator will build our sukkah. Okay, so let's start reading from this one then. Crown the king over us, selected excerpts from the sources. It is known, it's the first one, it is known that the whole earth is full of his glory. This is what every person should believe, as it is written, I fill the heaven and the earth. However, the Creator has made a concealment so that we cannot see him, so as to have room for choice. And then there is room for faith, to believe that the Creator fills all the worlds and encompasses all the worlds. And after a person engages in Torah and mitzvot and keeps the commandment of choice, the Creator reveals himself to him. And then he sees that the Creator is the ruler of the world. Thus, at that time, a person makes the king who will rule over him. That is, a person feels that the Creator is the ruler of the world, and this is regarded as a person making the Creator king over him. As long as one has not come to such a feeling, the Creator's kingship is concealed. This is why we say, on that day, the Lord will be one and his name one. That is, the glory of his kingship will appear over us. This is the whole correction we must do in this world, and by that we extend abundance in the world, for all the bestowals from above are drawn by engaging engaging in Torah and mitzvot with the aim to extend his kingship on us. Right, so let's read it a second time. It's known that the whole world, the whole earth is full of his glory. What does that mean? That means there's none else besides him. The creator is ruling the whole of reality. And there's no other force except the creator that rules and governs everything. This is what every person should believe. As it is written, I fill the heaven and the earth. So that's a state we should come to, right? I can't just believe things based on words. Otherwise, we'll be a religious group. And we're not a religious group. We're a spiritual group who is endeavoring to build a sixth sense, which is a soul, which can feel, perceive, and have a connection with the Creator while living in this world. All right? As you may have already discovered in the wisdom of Kabbalah, if you die, nothing happens. So the whole idea of something happening is when you live here exactly. This is the whole purpose of this world. This is what every person should believe. It means this is a state where every person should come and see and then believe that this is the case. However, the Creator has made a concealment so that we cannot see him, so as to have room for choice. And then there's room for faith to believe that the Creator fills all the worlds and encompasses all the worlds. So here, the Creator is concealed on purpose. If the Creator was not concealed, we would never have a choice. Right now, we have the potential to make a choice because we have a dot in the heart, which is an inclination for spirituality, and we have, by default, our desire to receive for ourselves. Okay, so we're in between levels, in between two states, more like not levels, in between two states. So however, the Creator has made a concealment so that we cannot see him, so as to have room for choice. And then there's room for faith. So now faith means the attribute of bestowal. So if I'm between two states with my dot in the heart and I've got an inclination for bestowal, and then I'm created with a desire to receive it, then I'm living in also my inclination to desire to receive pleasure for myself, then I'm in between these two states. And exactly when I'm in between two opposite states, I can actually make a choice. So this is our whole work actually in the wisdom of Kabbalah, always choosing to advance in spirituality rather than chasing irrelevant things that are, pretty much nonsense or have actually no relevance to our spiritual development or to our purpose of life. And then there's room for choice to believe that the Creator fills the worlds and encompasses all the worlds. So as we study more and more the wisdom of Kabbalah, we should come to a state where we feel that the Creator is just like really controlling, and he actually is everything. That's the state we should come to sense. And after a person engages in Torah and mitzvot, which is the wisdom of Kabbalah and the recommendations of the Kabbalists, right? That's what Torah and mitzvot are. They're not what some people believe on the outside, because Torah means a manual, a user manual, and also comes from the word light. So if I use the wisdom of Kabbalah correctly, I should get some light, which is wisdom, right? Spiritual elevation. And mitzvot are commandments, which are actually recommendations of Kabbalists, so that we can actually do them, apply them, and learn from experience and grow with those recommendations, just like we take recommendations from our parents or from smart people like doctors, right? If I go to a doctor, he knows what my illness is after he's diagnosed me, hopefully, and he gives me the right medication for it. Okay, so same kind of thing here with Kabbalists. So once a person starts to study the wisdom of Kabbalah and is engaged in these recommendations, the Creator reveals himself to him, and then he sees that the Creator is the ruler of the world. See, we can only see that the Creator is the ruler of the world when the Creator reveals himself. If the Creator does not reveal himself, we cannot really see that, okay? But what are we going to do in the meantime? In the meantime, we're going to study and take that as an assumption, just like in science, right? What do scientists do? They think about a phenomenon and they have an assumption about something, right? So what they want to do is they want to prove that assumption. So they come up with the formulas and the inventions and so on to prove whether that assumption is correct or not. So same in science as well. So there's the assumption that the creator is governing everything. So based on that assumption, I want to work in a specific way to discover if that's true or not. And if I work correctly in the wisdom of Kabbalah, sooner or later, actually, I should discover the creator and then should reveal that, yeah, the creator is doing everything. This is actually, on the other hand, a very good advantage after all that time. Why? Because then I can discern where my role is in reality. Okay, because until we really reveal the creator, we can't really discern where our place in reality is. Okay, so attaining spirituality, also elevating ourselves to a higher state, allows us to behave and activate ourselves correctly while we also incorporate reality. Thus, at that time, a person makes the king who will rule over him. Obviously, the king here is the creator, but what is really ruling over us? Instead of our egoism ruling us, the attribute of love and the act of bestowal is ruling over us. That is making the creator the king over us. Okay, so instead of being ruled by the Pharaoh, my egoism, I'm being ruled by a new attribute called love and bestowal. That is, a person feels that the creator is the ruler of the world, and this is regarded as a person making the king over him. So the person understands that the whole of reality, the whole reality is just being governed by one law, love and bestowal, and that's it. So as we elevate ourselves higher and higher in the degrees, we discover that there is more love, and it's just all love governing reality, despite the fact that we may not feel it in our lives, because our lives here are quite shocking. All right, but the reason it's quite shocking and sad is because we're actually opposite to the creator. If we were compatible or in sync with the creator, we'd have a perfect life here. So the reason we're going through all our problems is because the creator is all love and bestowal, and we're all self-reception. Now, if you think about 8 billion people wanting to get things only for themselves, okay, well, what do you think? The world is obviously going to be chaotic. Okay, if everybody's thinking about themselves, obviously we're going to have a chaotic world. So, and this is the reason why we're going through all kinds of problems globally. As long as one has not come to such a feeling, the Creator's kingship is concealed. This is why we say on that day, the Lord will be one and his name one. That is, the glory of his kingship will appear over us. This is the whole correction we must do in this world. And by that, we extend abundance in the world. For all the bestowals from above are drawn by engaging in Torah and Mitzvot with the aim to extend his kingship on us. Okay, so that's the situation. The glory of his kingship will appear over us. That is actually spiritual attainment. That is actually recognition of the Creator, coming to equivalence of form with the Creator, having contact with the Creator, and so on. It's like a baby being born, and that baby now has absolute contact all the time with his or her mom. Okay. All right, let me just shift this here. Isoke is asking, if a corporeal mental state like grief or depression becomes overwhelming and we feel drawn away from the 10, is this considered a descent in the work? Yeah, because I'm being distant from the group. What is a descent, right? A descent is when I'm actually getting further away from connection rather than closer to connection. Okay, that's what a descent is. So an ascent is also getting closer to the group. Now, it doesn't mean I have to feel good. Okay, a descent and a ascent and a descent is not a matter of feeling good or bad in terms of corporeality or how my life is. An ascent or a descent needs to be measured according to the goal that we're pursuing. So if I'm pursuing connection with others, then the further I am away from that connection, I'm in a descent. The closer I am, I'm in an ascent, despite the fact that I may not like the situation. Okay, that's what an ascent and descent is. So Isoke is also asking, should we try to overcome this through the work of NEBH? What's that? Or seek psychological help? Well, look, for corporeal stuff, you need to deal with corporeal things according to corporeality. Okay. In life, we're always having problems, but the wisdom of Kabbalah, right, is more suited for a person who's stable psychologically. Excuse me. The reason I say that is because a minute ago, I also mentioned it, that we're using our mind quite a lot to evaluate the inner states that we're going through. Okay, and because our psychology is changing all the time, it's very important for a person who's studying the wisdom of Kabbalah to be like sound and stable mentally, so that he or she can evaluate the situation they're in. Okay. Oh, none else besides him. Well, look, how can you overcome? How can you use there's none else besides him in the process? I can't just say there's none else besides him and it's all the creator and let it go, okay? Because otherwise then we'll be letting go of everything. And that's not what the creator wants. On the one hand, yeah, everything comes to me from life, and behind life, there is the creator. So there is none else besides him. But once the ball is in my court, okay? Once the ball is in my court, I've got to do something. Okay, I can't just say, well, there's no else besides him to this, there's no else besides him to that. Yeah, for sure, you can say it, but it's not going to solve your situation. It's not going to solve any situation. For example, let's say my work isn't going too well, okay? And all of a sudden my earnings are low. I can't say there's none else besides him and just say, just let it go. Okay, that's just not the way to treat the situation. Yeah, the conditions are coming from outside of me. So I can say, yeah, there's none else besides him because everything is coming to me from the creator. But how am I going to react to that? Okay, I can't just sit back. So I have to solve the problem and do the best that I can while still going on the path. Because think of it this way, right? Every time I have a corporeal problem, I can't think about jumping off the cliff. Okay, because we'll never live the next day, right? There's so many dramas which will be jumping off the cliff at the first opportunity, and we'll never get anywhere in life. So what we want to do is, on the one hand, we're having all these dramas from life, and what can those dramas really be, right? There are a few main buttons that the creator is going to press. That's going to be health, work, family. Okay, those are the three main things that he's going to be pinching you with. Okay, and other than that, if you can, on the one hand, understand that this is a matter of corporeal life and everybody's life has such problems, then I can handle those like regular people do in corporeality. But on the other hand, I can also keep studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, keep studying spirituality to add to my development. So you can bring none else besides him into the picture, but you have to understand that you've got to have a reaction to what's going on in your life. Okay, that's really important to do, because sometimes we see friends, they just let things go and say, oh, whatever, there's none else besides him, and that's just not the correct way to handle the situation. You can say there's none else besides him in the beginning of the situation, but then you have to say there's none else besides me, and you have to solve the situation as best you can, or do your best to solve the situation and not be slack with that. Let's read number 3. Baal Salam, this is Shamati article number 211, as though standing before a king. One who's sitting at one's home is not as one who is standing before a king. This means that faith should be that he will feel all day as though he is standing before the king. then his love and fear will certainly be complete. As long as he has not achieved this kind of faith, he should not rest. For this is our lives and the length of our days, and we will accept no recompense. And the lack of faith should be woven in his limbs until the habit becomes a second nature, to the extent that when I remember him, he does not let me sleep. All right, so let's go again one by one. One who's sitting at one's home is not as one who's standing before the king. So sitting at one's home is sitting in my own desire to receive. Okay. So if I'm in my desire to receive, it's not like I have a connection with the Creator. It's not like I'm with him in any way. This means that faith should be that he will feel all day as though he's standing before the king. So that's called faith, that I'm feeling like I'm with the Creator all day. Then this love and fear will certainly be complete, right? So I need to have both the love, that connection with the Creator, and I also need to have the fear. What is that fear? The fear that I may spoil the love between us. As long as he has not achieved this kind of faith, he should not rest. For this is our lives, for this is our life and the length of our days, and we will accept no recompense. So all of us should just keep hammering along, trotting along, and running forward until we attain this situation. And the lack of faith should be woven in his limbs until the habit becomes a second nature, to the extent that when I remember him, he does not let me sleep. So we should be in this constant work together, all of us in the 10. And the lack of faith should be woven in his limbs until the habit becomes a second nature. So we need to constantly work in trying to bestow, in trying to be good. So that will be our second nature. To the extent that when I remember him, he does not let me sleep. That the Creator will always be kind of in my thoughts and in my intentions. And that's basically it. Okay. There we go. So I think we skipped number 2, did we? Okay, not to worry, not to worry. It's 8:45. We'll call it a night, okay? At the end of the day, we'll carry on next week from number 2 or number 4, whatever, okay? Guys, thank you very much for being with us. It's been a nice pleasure for me, as always, on a Tuesday night. Hopefully, we'll see you guys next week, God willing. And take care until then. All the best. Bye-bye.